Yeah, right.
Can I just start off by saying that I buy a lot of books and I start reading them, but I never finish them. But your book was like the best book I've ever read.
Well, thank you. I had fun writing it. The memories it brought back were very strong, and I had such a marvelous. I think I was here. I've told Nick this a few times. I think I was here at exactly the right time. We were given great latitude to do what we thought we needed to do to publicize the place. And in the early days, we depended upon publicity entirely. We didn't do any advertising to speak of. The only thing we had was the Sunday night television show. It was the only thing that really was promoting us from time to time.
We stopped knowing what's my sister went to
Questions?
We couldn't afford to come anymore.
I was reading about you working on the Super Bowl halftime shows.
In 1995.
Super Bowl halftime shows?
I really didn't have much to do with it. I was aware that they were doing it. It was nothing that we publicized. The Super Bowl did their own publicity on it. And I was aware of entertainment people who were really very creative people who were doing, I don't know which one you're talking about because it was several.
There were several of them. I was just curious as to how those came about with Disney and.
Well, I think by and large the venues or the NFL sought out our expertise and asked us to put on those shows. So I know Bob Yanni, who was director of entertainment when we first opened here, and Ron.
That's really not something to.
Who am I thinking of?
Logan.
Very good.
Were very creative guys and thought very big. They had some people working for them, were great pageant producers, and so and it gave us an opportunity to expose Disney characters and so forth. Among the earlier ones was the local Citrus Bowl came to us and asked us to do their halftime show. And maybe that's where Super Bowl got the idea.
Well, I would have to say I alluded
You have a
briefly
particular favorite era?
it would be my first century.
It was all good, but
Well, it's all great fun, and there were two, I guess, that I would say. It was the 4 years that I worked at Disneyland when Walt was still around. They were doing the World's Fair at the time, and we brought back the stuff from the fair. We're starting on major attractions like Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion and so forth. We're getting started while he was still around. And that was the most exciting time. And then it was exciting when I came down here, of course, but it really became wonderfully exciting when Michael Eisner and Frank Wells came aboard in 1984. It was like Walt was back in terms of growth, of taking chances, of expanding everything in sight, of doing things that nobody ever had thought of before, particularly in terms of resorts, and developing whole two new parks. So the next 10 years, between the time that they came and Frank Wells' death, were really the most exciting period of the over Disneyland Paris during that time. I got a chance to go play a part in that. Anything else?
Yes, just wondering if you've been able to do anything different, where you would have had them make the 20,000 Lee vehicles out of different material, or?
I don't know. That was always a matter of money involved there somewhere. There were other reasons beyond the fact that the submarines wore out, because it became increasingly expensive to keep repainting the undersea areas every year. You'd have to shut it down and repaint. Early on they developed a paint, when we built the submarine in Disneyland, they developed a paint that would stand the being under chlorinated water for for a year or so between paintings. But then they had to remove the first coat of paint, and they found that it was not removable, it just wouldn't come off, so they ran into all kinds of difficulties in maintaining the undersea work, so it just became more expensive than it worth to try to keep it.
What was your favorite thing that you had to promote? In your grants, in all the realms, what was your favorite thing that you had to promote?
Meeting press people, meeting newspaper, radio, television people. I got to know some of the top editors of all the magazines, or most of the magazines in New York. I got to know most of the key anchors for the networks and so forth. All of them were very friendly and very, partly I think just because it was Disney, they all appreciated the parks and what Walt did and so forth. And David Brinkley and Tom Brokaw and Peter Jennings and particularly Walter Cronkite were all, I considered very good friends. We didn't see each other all that often, but when we did, we enjoyed being together. And meeting those kind of people, I think, were one of the great joys. Also, a few celebrities like Bob Hope and Ellen Hayes and whatnot that I had one reason I would get in contact with them. It was fun to be around.
So your Donald Duck stunt living on the internet, it's going to go on forever.
I guess. I don't know, how some of those, I'm still trying to figure out how we can make the elephant fly down Main Street, but
Well, they got close.
it was one of those crazy ideas. I said, gee, wouldn't it be fun if we could get a bunch of Peking ducks to follow Donald down the street for the opening? And everybody laughed at the dumb idea. And I said, I think it'd make a good picture. And they said, well, can you do it? And I didn't know it, they didn't know it. We called the bird band down on the island to ask him, and he had to call some friends and find out that, well, you could train ducks to do that. And the kind of the unexpected aspect of it was that we discovered they had to bond with Donald for the time they were born. So we sent Donald down to Miami to the nursery, the hatchery, and to be there when the ducks came busted out of their shells and got down on the floor and played with little yellow creatures. And we got some great video of that, which ran on the Miami television stations that night. We brought them up and started raising them, and decided we wanted to have them up where we could walk them down Main Street after they grew up enough. We sent Donald over to Fort Wilderness to get them so they would fall in rain and throw lettuce down for them. So we built a shed back of my office in City Hall where we could keep an eye on them and where we could go out Donald could go out every few days and walk them down the street. And we decided as long as they were going to a party, they ought to have party hats on. So we, the wardrobe department built some little cone-shaped hats that would fit on their heads. Then they discovered they were pretty hard. We couldn't just put a rubber band around it to hold it on the head, so finally figured out they glued a little bit of
all right, that's time.
Velcro to the top of the head. That way they could stick. The other problem was that we discovered when they started to dress the ducks, they put a hat on one duck, and all the rest of them would immediately attack him. We figured that they were envious, and so we solved that by building a divider in the middle of the shed. And we put a hat on one duck and put him over here, and another duck, and so as long as the other ducks had hats on, they were fine. So anyway, we had a group of 50 ducks, and they were so cute running around that we decided to build a float for them. So they were up on the float, and we had a song that went quack, 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 and because they were hot, they gasped and they opened their bills, so it looked like they were singing along. with the thing, and people were just, they see him coming down the street and just laugh.
Okay, we got to duck out.
Okay, sorry.